So today, guys, I'm going to show you why I replaced the original thumb screws that Astro-Physics provides with the 130 GTX on their focuser with something I made up here that you see, and that is on the 2-inch compression adapter, which is this part right here. Here you see a close-up of the original that is provided with the 130. And I'm not sure if these are custom made by Astro-Physics. I'm going to assume that they are. Now this came about wanting these longer ones because when I got the Tech 5 eyepiece turret, I had an issue with getting in here close enough to tighten these small knobs. I thought they were rather small, and once you put eyepieces on here, I'll get arthritis in both hands here, and it was just harder for me to tighten it up, and I wanted something that was going to be secure and longer. Now, one of the options that I thought of was going to McMaster Car and seeing what they had available. This was one type, and I would have wanted to opt for the 1.5 inch long. But then I saw that they were $17.22 a piece. I thought that was outrageous. The other option was on their site. I saw these, and those looked really nice. Price was very reasonable, and 1.25 inches long by the time you added the thickness of the head and also the collar height that they show. It just wasn't going to be long enough, but the price was very reasonable at $5.88 a piece. So the thread is 1/4 28. So I immediately thought of something like this. I've made my own knobs, if that's what you want to call this, with the wing nut on there, for tools and different things. So I thought, well, let me do this because I could get it at a longer length, and the wing nut gives you way more torque and stuff that you need, or power, to tighten it up. So let me show you what I'm talking about. Normally, if I put a diagonal on here, I still have plenty of room in here to get in here, and I can tighten it down, all three, and you have plenty of torque, tightness, that you can turn this, and you've only got the diagonal and one eyepiece. So the issue for me became when I got this turret. So now you can get in here, but then you've got these other three. Now, once you put an eyepiece on here, and I always like to load this with eyepieces first, and then when you put this on, for me, getting in there with the eyepieces sticking up and everything in the room, I just didn't feel confident enough that I was getting this snug enough. So here you can kind of see what I'm talking about. To get in here, and even though you could turn it like this, I wanted to make sure that I had this snug enough, because if you saw my review of the Tech turret here I did, with the 5 eyepieces that I had on there, I believe the weight was 6 pounds 10 ounces or so. So that's a lot of weight and a lot of money hanging off the end of this, and I wanted to make sure that it was absolutely, positively going to stay on. And the total cost, each bolt, each 1/4 28 by 2 inch socket headed cap screw, was 77 cents, and the 1/4 28 wing nut was 30 cents a piece, and they are stainless steel. And I like these much better because they have a better gripping here with the wider stance of the wing nut, plus they're further out than what the one would be from a master car. So my hands are nowhere near any of the focuser end, and I can get out fully, and it's not in the way of the eyepiece. And when you do this, you don't need a Herculean effort. You just, once I feel it touch like that, and then that's plenty. So next in this video, what I'll do is I'll show you how I made this. Very simple to do, and anybody that might want to give this a try, I'll show you what I had to do to make these. So the first thing you want to do is get yourself a 1/4 28 die. You're going to want to rotate it onto the bolt and go just about what I've got there, maybe 1/2 inch or so. You don't want to go in too far. Now what this is going to do is you're going to have the die with the flat sides onto the table of your belt sander here. This is a combination belt sander and then the disc here. And what that's going to do is keep you flat like this. Instead of tipping the bolt, you'll be flat. Then what you do is you'll come over and you'll kind of eye it up so that it's at a 90 degree, so that the spacing's the same between the disc and the die, and then you can also look straight on. And then when you grind it, you should come up with a fairly flat face. And here you see the end. And I've got to go a little bit more because it's still caved in a little bit, it's still dished out. And here you see it after that second time. I just don't go in far enough. Nice and flat. Next, I'm going to take this before I do anything else and run this on the wire wheel of my grinder. And when you're done, you should get something that looks like this. Next, we'll back the die off of the bolt. When we get towards the end, we're going to want to run it back and forth. It's getting a little bit stiffer here. So you're going to want to get it past that point, like you see here, and then run it back on. You can see the little shavings. Well, maybe you can't in my hand with the camera. I can see very fine shavings. So it's very important when you're done that you clean this, blow it off. Don't let this get around your equipment. Then what I did is I took the bolt and put it back on the wire wheel for a little bit, took off if there was any burr. Then I used this little hobby file, kind of these small needle files. You can buy these in a pack real cheap. Menards has them and they work great. And then I just took and touched up the end. So when you're done, it should look like this. The next thing you want to do is you're going to run on your wing nut. Yeah, I'm looking behind the camera and it's hard to do. Here we go. You run that on backwards like you see here. Next you want to put some red Loctite. I got a little bit too much on that, but it'll wipe off. Number 271. Loctite number 271. And you'll tighten that down. Now the way I do it is I'll take a crescent wrench like this, put so it's loose in there so you can move it back and forth. That actually will act as a vise so that I can tighten this down, because I want to get it tighter than what I could if I was just holding it by hand. Just like that. And I'll wipe off the excess Loctite. And there you are. And here you have your homemade knob.